Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the Overflow. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
And I have ridiculous headphones on because I am too lazy to get up and get my earbuds.
And I am stuck in traffic because I couldn't leave work as early as I wanted to, unfortunately.
Yeah, that, and apparently there's a dead person or something.
Well, hopefully there's not a dead person.
Yes, hopefully not.
Wrecked traffic, but...
Yeah. Alright. Well, for those of you who don't know, we've had some new subscribers lately. We're getting, I think we're around 700 now or something like that.
Hey, good stuff.
Oh, yeah. The Overflow is a weekly program we do that basically answer any and all questions we didn't get the chance to answer during the Q&A sections of the last podcasts. So we're going to be going through both politics and entertainment, and as always, I'm going to let Hatman choose. But I do have an announcement to make. I am almost in the 330s range, weight-wise. I just weighed in at 340.
It's closer than you think.
I know. And that would make it 37 pounds down over the course of 3.5 months, something like that.
Damn.
So, yeah, it's averaging like almost 10 pounds a month. So it's good stuff.
That's good. Keep it up.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to have to humble eat, sadly, because of money issues lately. So I'm going to have to drop the diet for a little bit. But I'm still going to not eat as much, so I'm not consuming as many calories. But, Hatman, enough of my fatness. What are we starting with today? Politics or entertainment?
You know, I think the last couple of them we started with entertainment. So let's go back to politics. Starting off with that one.
All right. And some of these I don't think are going to be... too tough of questions, to say the least. So let's go ahead and Okay. Swordsman 100 asks, will Trump ever do something about this blatant attempt to censor censor people who aren't far left? Okay, so let me say this.
What can he do? That's the thing.
Well, he could do quite a few things, but it would be an abuse of his power.
Yeah.
And that's where we sit. Now, if you want Donald Trump to say something about these biases, he already has. He's been pretty open about how he doesn't like it. So, it's not like he's not outspoken about the issue. The thing is that just because a president says something doesn't necessarily mean that those words are going to carry into the culture itself, or at least into certain sectors of it. I mean, the fact of the matter is, right now we live in one of the most divided political times we ever have. It is this weird just unrest, just tension, constantly.
Yeah, probably the most divided since the Civil War.
Yeah. Everybody hates each other for reasons that don't really make any sense either, because nobody understands each other either. And on top of that, no one is taking the time to understand the other person. And it's true on both sides, though I think the left is a little bit more guilty of it than the right is. Just a touch. Not by a huge margin. I think that there are these straw men that are built up, that are either built on extreme cases, or built on nothing at all. On these made-up ideas of how Republicans think, for example. That they all want the Handmaid's Tale, and millions will die! Somebody was waiting for that somewhere. But that's basically the gimmick at this point. And it's not helping anything. And I think that some people are a little frustrated with the fact that people on the right are, you know, more willing to have have discussions about the issues than people on the left, and they think, oh, it's not really doing anything. No, it is. You have to keep in mind, there are people that are considered themselves of the left about 6, 7, 8 years ago that were all in on Obama, that were all in on progressivism, that are now starting to sit down and have conversations with people they wouldn't have talked to 6 years ago. That's progress. And it's slow, and it takes time, but the best things in life always take time. So, I mean, we're starting to see in our audience more people that are of the left show up in the chat and discuss. And they're open. And that's a result of those of us who are on the right being civil, being honest, standing up for what we believe in, but opening the floor to debate. It's working. It's just there's so much outrage going on that nobody wants to admit that it's working. And that's what bothers me. Because some people have made... Hold on, real quick. I'm almost done, I promise. I watched the Sunday special with Ben Shapiro and Glenn Beck recently. And I know a lot of people don't like Glenn Beck because some people apparently haven't gotten over the primaries. Guys, I was a Ted Cruz guy. I got over it. You can too. The simple fact is that I agree with Glenn when it comes to the idea that we live in an outrage culture that has monetized outrage. And ergo, they use that sort of thing to continue to basically make more money for themselves. And I think that that's not going to work in the long run. You know, it's why I'm very happy that with Comicsgate stuff, that we've been encouraging positivity, we've been encouraging positive messages, and speaking, you know, talking about good things and how much we love what we're doing to people, as opposed to being all negativity all the time, because we don't want this to be about, you know, 10 minutes of anger right now that makes a new e-celeb. We don't care about that. We care about offering something that can be sold in shops, that can be sold direct to the consumer, and so on and so forth, that will make a business better 10, 20, 30 years down the line. But that's the thing. Outrage is always temporary. When you have to pursue something meaningful, and right now I don't think as a society we're doing it, and that's why we are the way we are, and that's why we're as divided as the way that we are. Okay, I'm done.
Now, I think really the issue is coming from this sabotage of the marketplace of ideas, whereas you have people straight up arguing that even debating someone who has like extremist views, and of course to these same people, anyone right of center or even center has an extremist view.
Mm-hmm.
But even debating, discussing with them is giving that person a platform.
Yeah.
Is giving, hate speech a platform, and that's unacceptable. I mean, it's this absolute hyperbole of anything that's disagreed with. And the right certainly did this too.
Mm-hmm.
The Tea Party was certainly guilty of that in its worst years. Not all the time, but in its worst years.
Can you give me an example of that? Because I'm a little lost on that. On the Tea Party doing that, because I was a Tea Partier.
The whole Obama is literally coming to take all of the guns and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, Obama was for gun control, but he was not for gun confiscation. But anyway,
but that I think that more or less we're talking about an issue with the human condition that I think that both sides can easily fall into, because
yes, of course, but the issue is you're not supposed to let that rule over your line of thinking, especially politically, and that's basically what's going on. I mean, it's like you said, the whole millions will die thing. I mean, when Trump was even being considered, people said if he gets the nomination, then millions will literally die, and then when he won, he is literally going to kill trans people. I kept seeing that on my Facebook feed, and I was like, how in the hell? I'm fairly certain that all those people who posted that are still alive today.
Mm-hmm.
So, whoops. But no, it's when you've made your political opposition out to be absolute evil, no matter what, everything they say is hate speech, then of course you're not going to be able to have a discussion. You're not going to be able to sit down with them and debate or even just have a cup of tea and a chat.
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sake, when you got people shouting at politicians to get them out of restaurants, I mean, they're not even allowed to eat in peace. That's messed up, and that just happened to Ted Cruz last night. Absolutely messed up. But that's the times that we live in. There is no marketplace of ideas anymore, and social media continuing to censor people for fucking innocuous shit, that's not helping either.
Out of pure fear beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure we'll end up talking about Twitter's, dehumanization policy in the coming weeks.
Yes. Okay, so
Christ Almighty.
Yeah, let's move on. Crystal Wing says, do you think that the media should be politically neutral since a fair amount of the SJW problems stem from the media blindly supporting them? You know, it's either got to be one of two things. You either got to pursue neutrality, and you got to pursue being Switzerland, or you need to be honest about your biases. And I think that that's my biggest problem with CNN as opposed to, like, MSNBC. MSNBC, they will tell you they're leftist, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas...
Fox also.
Yeah, Fox will tell you that they're on the right wing, but... CNN will lie to you and say that they're trying to be neutral. Bullshit.
Mm-hmm. No, they're not. No, I would absolutely prefer if they were neutral. I mean, that's the easiest way to read the news. Then you don't have to basically read between the fucking lines. But yeah, if you're gonna have a bias, own it. Like for God's sake. Just so people will know to write you off or to keep reading, depending on their own tastes.
Alright, let's see what's next. Honest Whisperer wants to know, do you think the press were always the enemy of the people, or was it a gradual process? You know, going as far back as the Revolutionary War, I can remember politicians talking shit about the media. I think that at the end of the day, we need to be honest about something, is that the media is a business. And it acts like a business. It's just not honest about the fact that it's a business. You know,
yeah.
I've always felt like the
clickbait is a seller.
I've always felt like the most honest character ever created in fiction was J. Jonah Jameson. Like the old adage from and one of the few credits I'll still give the Raimi films is that J. Jonah Jameson has not aged like a banana. But that line of, if I can't make him famous, then I'll make him infamous. You know, that is the press, man, and I can say that as somebody who worked in it. Like, there's always a demand, like, because at the end of the day, you're no different than the grocery store that sells bread or the strip club that sells blue balls. You know, you work for a newspaper, you sell newspapers. That's your job, is to sell newspapers. Now, the problem that I have is just ethics. You know, is that if you admit that you're on the left and you want to write your lefty bullshit opinion pieces about how supposedly socialism is going to save the world, even though millions have died because of it, by all means, sow your nonsense. But you know, if you're getting the facts wrong, or you're just fucking lying about people, then we got a problem. It's why I don't mind people who I disagree with talking at all. It doesn't bother me one bit. You know, it's why I say if you're worried about them growing in influence, just ignore them. Don't treat them like there's something to be taken seriously when you don't think that they are. Because somebody is either a threat to you or they're a joke. You can't be both at the same time. So, they are mutually exclusive ideas. As it stands, I know I'm rambling a bit there, but my point is that, you know, has the press always been the enemy of the people? I think that, not necessarily. I think that avarice can turn the press into the enemy of the people, because they put clicks before ethics.
Yeah. Really, I've started calling, like, network news real reality TV. I mean, because that's basically what it's turned into. I mean, this entire political landscape has turned into our daily reality TV show. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's writing about it. I mean, you can't always separate, you know, a major story from yellow journalism anymore. Like, that's depressing. But no, I absolutely agree with you. It's chasing that dollar. And you know, we've seen it with like mass shootings and stuff. The whole Black Lives Matter thing, that was definitely based in greed because people paid attention to it, so it spawned more stories. But no, with this landscape that we've got now, I guess I can't really call it a new landscape, but the current one, it's really hard to argue with the idea that the press is the enemy of the people, because the press's role is to be fair and accurate, and they're not really being either right now. That's sad. It's honestly sad.
All right, let's see here. Let's see here. Cooper's Revenge Home says, can we treat socialists as the Chinese treat Muslims as mentally ill? I treat them like spoiled children. That's my reaction to them all the time. It's like, you've never lived in a poor country, you've never lived in an area where socialism has been attempted in any way, shape, or form, so you've never seen what it really does. Makes the people in the government rich and everybody else poor. You know, look where Maduro is living. And then you try to tell me that's not real socialism. No, that's real socialism when human beings do it. Socialism is a philosophy that doesn't take human nature into account. It's idiotic. And only people with this flowery idea of the world of, oh, we'll all be equal, we'll all be the same, and da-da-da. That's heaven. Heaven is not on earth. You're not going to find it here. Yep. I'm sorry. No. Stop appropriating my religious culture.
Everyone starves equally under socialism.
Exactly. They don't know. They're dumb. They're children. They don't understand the world. And they probably have parents that, instead of preparing them for the road ahead in life and how hard life will be, instead what they decided to do was try to change the road and tell their children that they could change the road when they can't. Life is hard. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you're able to be a man or a woman and take up responsibility, and the sooner you ditch socialism. Hatman, you got anything to add to that one?
Nothing more, except kids tend to grow out of it.
Yeah. Alright, Hardboiled Entertainment asks, Kim Jong-un is going, I intend to disarm if you do too. So is he just saving face for this party? Is there any real chance for peace in the Korean Peninsula? Well, maybe. Again, the definition of peace in the Korean Peninsula is the Kim dynasty going bye-bye.
Yeah.
They're based on lies and threats of war. That's all they have. That and starvation.
Yeah.
So the instant that all starts to go away, he knows he's going to lose control. And he's a megalomaniac. That's how megalomaniacs act, is they desire power. They lust for it. So, you know, to Trump's credit, I think that he treats, you know, the Kims as they should be treated in regards to treating them like guys who want something from somebody as opposed to treating them like a legit threat. So there's that at least. But it's going to take Kim giving up. And I don't think that he wants to.
That's the biggest fear of men in power, to lose their power.
Mm-hmm. That's why we have terms here in the United States.
Exactly.
That's why we need to start having them for term limits for the Senate as well. Some people are just getting too powerful.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on. Brian Gilmartin asks our final politics question. Do we think it's fair to say that a lot of today's social problems stem in part from people not minding their own business and wanting the feds to solve any little problem like racism, poverty, inequality, etc., etc.? Well, Yeah, that is part of it. I mean, it kind of goes into what we've been talking about throughout this entire section, is that there is the road. You either prepare somebody for the road ahead, or you tell them that they can change the road. Well, the road can't be changed for the simple fact that that road is human nature. And there are elements of our being that are purely instinctive and cause us to have strife with one another. And being that we're humans and not monkeys, we have the ability to move beyond those things. But if you teach somebody that they can just change, that everybody's going to change the world when they're not, they don't prepare for hardship. The instant it starts to hit them, they throw a fucking tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of these kids, they've been taught that government is the answer. That the government is the people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the government is the people to degrees. You know, we elect politicians as our representatives, but we don't have total control over all of their actions.
No.
Which is why you're supposed to limit their power. You know, it's why you oftentimes see people on the left who are constantly saying, you know, that Kavanaugh isn't ready to help with workers' rights or whatever. Or take care, or stop Planned Parenthood from being defunded. He's a judge, you idiot. Christian Gillibrand was saying that. He's a judge, you moron. That's not what he does. That's not what we made that job to be. And I think that this is a big part of it. People think that the government should be this giant amorphous mass that is supposedly the people that runs everything. I'm sorry, but that ends up in an Orwellian nightmare. And if you take a determinist perspective, it becomes Huxley's Brave New World.
Mm-hmm. I think it comes from education at a young age, because you're really not taught about the role of government as you're going through school. And if you are, it tends to be the role of the government is to take care of the people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, what does take care of the people? I mean, that could mean many different things, but people tend to interpret that as, you know, through welfare programs.
But beyond that, it's wrong.
Time they hear about, yeah, it's about the same time they hear about like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, you know, food stamps, all that sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, the government can take care of the people, but that's not the role. The role of the government is to defend and protect the rights of the people. Individual liberties.
Yeah, the specifically inalienable rights. The things that can be self-observed. And they are
Yes.
based on the individual, not on the collective.
Yeah. The government is not supposed to protect any entitlements, because you are not entitled to anything. You do not have a right to any entitlements.
Exactly. The role of the government is not to take care of you. The role of the government is to get out of its own way so you can take care of yourself. That is the simplest way I can put it.
Yeah. The sooner people learn that, the better.
All right, let's move on to entertainment. Crystal Wing 2149 says, my LCS has managed to survive through manga sales. So do you think others could survive by putting more focus on the more stable manga market and try to ride out the SJW infection? That's not a bad idea, honestly.
Yeah, but it goes back to something that we've talked about plenty of times. Moving strictly from like Americanized comics to manga is very, very much of a culture shock for most people.
Yeah, it is. I'm not going to lie, it is. But it has become less of one, to the point where you might be able to make enough money to diversify what you're selling. Because now we're getting into business, now we're getting into my area.
Mm-hmm.
To diversify what you're selling and thus bring in new customers. You know, maybe what you do is you take your store and you say, all right, this is all this bullshit that Marvel is selling me. If I don't think it's going to sell and Marvel sends it to me, I'm putting it in the trash can, or I'm burning it, or I'm giving it away for free because they're over shipping and this is bullshit. I'm going to start an anime and manga section in the back. And I'm going to advertise it. And then if you're, you know, because sometimes that's what you have to do when you own a business. You have to diversify what you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how markets work in a lot of ways, and how businesses get bigger. You know, suddenly there's the possibility you could open an LCS, and then in 10, 20, 30 years, you could be running D&D games in the basement. It's possible.
Yeah.
In this day and age, you have to move with the market. You know, and that's, you know, that because it's the only way to survive, in my opinion, in some ways, because the comic book publishers, man, they're trying to shove all this shit in people's faces when they know that when it does sell, it's selling more digitally than it is physical. And they don't really give a shit. So, you gotta watch out for yourself if you're the LCS. As much as I want Marvel and DC to get their shit together, you know, it's gonna take some moves by these folks to really get through the storm. Because it's exactly what they're in. So, that's my thoughts on it. You have anything to add, Hatman?
No, not really. I think he summed it up rather well.
Okay. Autist Whisperer asks, who's our favorite comic book artist and why? For me, it's Mark Bagley. Mostly because I grew up on his work. He was the Amazing Spider-Man artist when I was a kid. So, the very first book I bought... actually, no. The very first book I was given as allowance, for better or worse, was Amazing Spider-Man 361. Written by David Michelini, pencils done by Mark Bagley, and it's still, that arc, that introduction of Carnage is still, if it's not my favorite comic book story of all time, it's one of my favorites. There's so much in 3 issues that it's crazy. So, yeah, that's it for me. Hatman, what about you?
That's a hard question. Be honest with you, like I want to say Jim Lee, and I know that sounds kind of, you know, I know it sounds kind of cliche because it's like, okay, yeah, everyone likes Jim Lee, but I think Neil Adams would also be up there as well, just because his style is absolutely classic. Like, Jim Lee, I think, has sort of cornered it for, like, modern art, but as far as, like, Silver Age, I think Neil Adams has it.
Yeah, Neil's something special, too. I think another guy who personifies that era, what was his name? George Perez as well. From that era of comic books was phenomenal. It has a very similar style to Neil's. Yeah. Was it Neil or George who did Crisis on Infinite Earths? I want to say it was George.
I think you're right.
Yeah, because it was. I'm pretty sure that was Wolfman and Perez.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That was a dynamite frickin' comic book duo back in the day. I mean, that's before my time, but a lot of the things that I have read by those two, especially their Teen Titans run, are incredible. And then, of course, there's Deathstroke. You know, they're the ones who created him.
No, Crisis on Infinite Earths was pretty fucking nuts, too.
Yeah, it's a classic for a reason. Alright, Swordsman100 asks, who would we say are our top 3 current Spider-Man villains? So that kind of eliminates Otto and Eddie, sadly. Mm-hmm. Well, not sadly. I'm actually kind of glad that their characters have evolved. Currently, I would have to say, well, Green Goblin's going to take the top. Carnage would be number 2. Mm-hmm. The downside of how Dan Slott's run ended is he eliminated so many freaking villains.
I'm about to say, I'm just trying to think of who's left.
And not many of them have had very strong showings either. Well, you know what? I'd have to say Kraven. Because Kraven is still Kraven, and Kraven, if anything, I think that he's one character in the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery who's always been very consistently written. And then, of course, Kraven's Last Hunt is one of the best comics ever.
Damn straight.
So that would be my 3 picks. What about you, Hatman?
I'd probably have to match him. Because, honestly, I'd probably move Kraven over Carnage, though. of course, Goblin would be number one because, Goblin's always going to be number one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just troublesome to think of who the hell is left that's been written pretty well lately.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Slott.
Personally, I didn't hate Dan's run. I thought that it just, some arcs were great, some just really shit the bed. It just depended on what mood he was in. All right.
The highs didn't justify the lows for me.
Really?
Nope.
Even bringing back Eddie Brock? I didn't think Dan's lows were that low. Honestly.
I'll give him bringing back Eddie Brock, but he just...
Because you've got the whole Mr. Negative saga, which is like 3 or 4 years, and then Spider Island, which was pretty good. And then, oddly enough, Superior Spider-Man was pretty good, too.
Really? I didn't like Spider Island at all.
Really? I dug it.
Yeah.
I thought
Superior Spider-Man, definitely
the
not.
The only thing I was bummed about is the fact that it removed the anti-Venom symbiote from Eddie. But then again, Eddie became Venom again later on, which is apparently the plan the whole time. I just thought in the later years, especially just these last couple, is really where he fell apart, because he was just spending too much time bickering with fans, not enough time making good books.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just how Peter Parker changed. He basically became like a younger version of Tony Stark in my mind.
Yeah, that was kind of the problem. Well, there was that, and he kind of tried to make him the modern male, as a New Yorker would see it.
No,
and it just no.
That's antithetical to what Peter Parker represents. He was an outcast. He was always meant to be an outcast.
Yeah.
The lowest becomes the greatest.
And he didn't seem to understand that. You know, and I'm all for Peter Parker at some point becoming a successful person in the comic books, because I think that he has to evolve. And I think that the big problem has just been Joe Quesada does not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely surprised that he's allowing Nick Spencer to have Peter Parker and Mary Jane as an item again.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm in shock over that. But as it stands, the Marvel editorial board will not let that character evolve anymore. And and I don't think that that's totally Dan's fault. You know, I think that the board has to answer for that, because they're stuck in 1977. So that's just my thoughts. I didn't hate Dan as much as some other people do, but that's because I didn't follow him on Twitter. I don't follow a lot of people on Twitter.
I can't follow him on Twitter. So.
Well, he's blocked everybody. But my point is the reason I don't do that is it keeps me from going insane about Twitter drama. We know a certain captain that it drove him crazy, you know, and then to the point that he got addicted to it. You know, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I would rather take an artist on their, or a creator on their own merits of their work. I don't care about their personal politics.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand some people don't like Dan Slott. As a person, I don't like him either. But he could write a good comic when he puts his mind to it. It's my only dealings with him. I don't ask the guys at Little Caesars what their politics are. I don't care. They make pizza. That's what they're there for. We make comic books. That's what we're here for. If you don't care about my politics, that's okay. Our podcast is one of many things that we will be offering here on Micah and the Hatman in the next few years. All right. Oh, how about all the DMC5 this week? Dante trailer, gameplay, and song weirdness. I'm excited, but I don't really have much to say beyond that.
Wasn't that song pulled because some pedophilia accusations or something?
I have no fucking clue. I didn't pay attention to it.
It was something like that. Like somebody had accused either the lead singer or some people in that band of pedophilia or rape or something, and they pulled the song and just sort of wiped everything clean. Okay. Shit's getting serious now.
Let's see here. Koopa's Revenge Home says it got leaked on some Korean site that some sort of Castlevania collection is happening. Thoughts? I'll believe it when I see it.
I'm down for it.
Yeah, if it happens, I'm going to buy it, probably, but I'll believe it when I see it. I would love for Castlevania to make a return. It's one of my favorite video game franchises ever. You know, Super Castlevania 4 is one of my top 5 games of all time. Yeah. But, like I said, I'll believe it when I see it. Though Super Castlevania 4 HD would be fucking crazy. Alright, Diego Camacho asks, have we read any of the Song and Fire and Ice books? If so, who would you rather see take the Iron Throne? I have not read any of the books. I've only watched Game of Thrones. I have a feeling that everybody dies. And that a White Walker sits on the Iron Throne and it's an apocalyptic ending. Because HBO series never end well, and neither do George H.R.R. Martin stories.
I would say nobody sits on the Iron Throne because the throne itself is destroyed. There is no way to rule over the 7 kingdoms. They will all be basically their own kingdoms, their own places, because King's Landing is going to be absolutely obliterated. Yeah, I think most of the cast is going to die. I think that like 1 or 2 are going to live. Like Sansa Stark, I think she's going to live. Probably Tyrion. Probably Tyrion will live.
Yeah.
I can't imagine him dying, but Jon Snow I think is going to bite it.
Yeah, Daenerys is probably going to bite it too.
Daenerys is almost certainly going to bite it. I think Jon's going to bite it mostly because of the line that he gave us, like, you know, you brought me back once, don't do it again. Like, yeah. That's foreshadowing. But yeah, don't have time for Game of Thrones theories, unfortunately.
No. Alright, Fresh as Slice wants to know, considering you guys love the darker aspects of media, at what point has deconstruction gone too far, and what is the best way to get writers to address it? Well, I think that the problem is these days is everybody wants to do deconstruction and barely anybody's good at it.
Yeah.
Like, I think I blame Mark Miller for it. Because Mark Miller has done so much deconstructive work that I don't think he's ever really constructed anything at this point.
Mm.
That's sort of my problem with it. Like, when I read Wanted for the first time, I thought it was the cringiest bullshit I've ever read in my life. Like, this is stupid! The movie was better! Like, how did people like this comic? Oh yeah, it was the early 2000s. Everything was edgy Von Edgerton. It was... You know, so... I think that is generally the problem, is everybody feels like they need to call out every single trope of the fucking genre. It's gone too far already. I don't need it to feel like you're not going to take the medium at face value. I want to read a book that takes itself at face value. You know, I'm writing a book that takes itself at face value. Because that's what I want. And that's part of the reason that, like, the 2 main inspirations for Project Lazarus are fucking, Evangelion and Devilman. Stories that took themselves at face value.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Both are fucking manga. You know, there's other inspirations as well, like the X-Men, or actually more so X-Factor, because they were a government-sponsored super team. You know, or, there's Iron Man influence, there's Metal Gear influence, things like that. But, Hulk influence, Avengers influence, really. So, a lot of Image comic, too, because they like to tamper around with that, like The Authority. I'm starting to get into my... I love Warren Ellison, fucking Gona guy, what can I say? But, the point being is that, yeah, we're too far already. Too many people are giving us this fucking bullshit, attempted tongue-in-cheek stuff, and nobody can do it right. I was thinking yesterday when I was browsing through Twitter, seeing people respond to Gail Simone, I'm like, I remember when Gale was awesome at what she did. Her Deadpool run, mwah, awesome stuff. I will give her credit for that all day. Because it was fun. But now, everybody's definition of fun is this tongue-in-cheek nonsense. It's like, when everything is tongue-in-cheek and everything is an inside joke, they're not jokes anymore, they're just references.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that was the problem with Duke Nukem Forever. You know, and you know, I'm referencing a different piece of media, but that's sort of the problem with Duke Nukem Forever. Everything's a reference. It's not really a joke. And then when the jokes did come, people were too sensitive. Yeah, we're too far already. We gotta pull back. We have to go back. Fuck it, go back. Where's the fuck it, go back button on my keyboard? Okay. Hatman, anything else?
I think it's more a problem with postmodern literature in general.
Yeah.
It's just how everything's trended.
Yeah, deconstruction really is a postmodern idea. So, fuck postmodernism. Exterminatus and postmodernism?
Hell yes.
Let's do it.
Exterminatus on postmodernism.
We have arrived, and it is now that we fulfill our charge. In fealty to the Lord our God, and by the grace of his throne, I declare exterminatus upon whatever scumbag we're declaring exterminatus on today. I hereby sign the death warrant of an entire wherever, and consign 1,000,000 souls, maybe, to oblivion. May imperial justice account in all balance. The Emperor protects.
Deus vult, Deus vult, Deus vult, Deus vult, Deus vult, Deus vult.
Ah, the good stuff. Alright, are we ready for our final question?
Last one, really?
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
Hardboiled Entertainment, our resident DCEU fan who is in the process of bribing me to keep talking about it. With the whole debacle of Henry Cavill being out as Superman, do you think it's only contract negotiations, or is WB seriously thinking of dumping him? I think that he's going to have a lot of his time taken by this Witcher series that he's been opted for. Which I'm actually excited to see him play Geralt of Rivia. I'm just hoping that they keep Ciri looking like Ciri. But regardless, you know, and Triss Marigold looking like Triss Marigold for obvious reasons.
Yes, please.
In fact, I wouldn't mind if Amy Adams got cast as Triss. She's not as busty.
That'd be interesting.
She's not as busty, but she is as pretty. So, Amy Adams is drop-dead gorgeous.
Agreed.
She's one of those women that I cite whenever I hear this thing of, like, you know, there's certain women of certain builds, like, lack femininity. I'm like, you can still be a string bean and have femininity to you. You know, it's not any one element. It's not the size of your boobs. It's not the size of your hips. You know, it goes beyond that, and I can't really describe it because I'm not really a woman. Well, I'm not a woman at all, so... Actually, I lied. I'm every woman. It's all in me. I'm kidding. The thing is that I think that with him doing that, and I think that with the direction of the DCEU and the failure of Justice League on so many levels, and the failure of Batman v Superman in regards to a creative direction, like, the whole DCEU is falling apart. And now they're relying on a movie about the Joker to resurrect it. When you have to make a movie about your biggest villain in your universe to save it, that... If I could laugh like the Joker, I'd be laughing right now, so give me a second. I need to pull up a Joker laugh.
Just go with Mark Hamill.
Well, fucking duh. Alright, where is it? There's one specifically I'm looking for. Here we go. Had to use the one from the end of Mask of the Phantasm.
Perfect.
It's his best one, in my opinion. It's
yes.
That movie is so good.
It really is.
But anyway, the I really do think that it's just he's probably just not happy with the way things have gone, along with a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So
Batfleck being the prime example there.
Yeah, Ben Affleck he can be a good actor, he just didn't show up. But it's also not completely his fault, because the script writing was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they wrote Batman... The problem with Batfleck is he's the dumbest Batman. As a character, he's the dumbest of all of them. Like, when you compare him to the others, like, the most intelligent, I would think, is probably the Christian Bale version, followed by Michael Keaton's, in regards to how the character was portrayed, and the rest of them were just kind of average. George Clooney's was just rich.
Yeah.
He literally was rich as a superpower, which is hilarious. But anyway, he was just so dumb and emotional, and it didn't really explain why. It's just, oh, he's old and jaded. Well, no, wait a minute. If he's old and jaded, he's not going to be dumb and emotional, too. Jaded is a lack of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
He's also overly paranoid. He made, InfoWars watchers looked at that version of Batman and went, shit! What the fuck's wrong with you? Why are you so paranoid? So, I know that he's gonna pay me to rewatch Batman v Superman. And I know that I also want to do a video. I'm actually excited about the fact that he got me started on this, about Superman not killing. Which I honestly think maybe you and I both should do. Because I know we both are not fans of Batman and Superman killing.
Definitely not.
So I think that if we... Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that sometime later. As a Micah and the Hatman thing on my main channel. Because I really think that discussing that particular, idea with heroes, I think that's what honestly makes them come across as understanding of their own power. But we'll get to that. But I understand the argument of, well, real life heroes do have to kill sometimes, military, police, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the things change when you introduce superpowers into the mix. So, we'll end on that. Hatman, do you have any final words for our overflow this week before we take off?
Not really, except expect this weekend's podcast to be absolutely crazy.
Millions?
There's going to be a lot of shit to dissect over this week, and it's only Tuesday.
Millions? We die! Or something.
Not just millions. Billions.
Billions?
Billions.
I don't know if I can handle billions. Because John says that's a lot of fucking people. I really need that mask. I really do.
Oh, yes. And you have to learn how to type with boxing gloves on.
Oh, God. I don't know if I can put that off. All right. Folks, we appreciate you guys watching. As always, if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. We will bring this to you every week, alongside the podcast live every Saturday as well, now at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. But we got to get going. I got to go run errands. Hatman, I think, is home finally. So,
yeah, finally made it.
My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hat Man.
We'll see you guys next week. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.